Good evening, IWU listeners and viewers worldwide. Today we have a very special guest. He's a native of Homewood Flossmoor, Illinois. He's an alumni of Homewood Flossmoor High School. He is currently a junior here at IWU, and he just completed his Education 257 course. He's here to tell us all about it. Please help me welcome to the stage Mr. Anthony Roberts. Good evening, Anthony, and welcome. We know that you just completed your Education 257 course. Tell us a little bit more about what this course entailed.
Well, the Education 257 course here at Illinois Wesleyan was entitled The Exceptional Child. And within this course, we kind of learned about students with disabilities and kind of the importance in creating inclusive classrooms so where they feel like they're a part of the classroom. And we also learn how to work with them and their families as well to kind of better their educational experience. Here at Illinois Wesleyan, in our teacher education program, we have a mission statement. And the mission statement kind of focuses on the idea of social justice and making classrooms equitable for every student. And normally when we think of social justice, we think of like racial or economical means to create a better experience. But this course kind of furthered the idea of social justice and looked into disabilities and creating inclusion to further the idea of social justice within schools.
Wow. So with the title or with the course title such as Exceptional Child, I'm sure it sparked some of your own experiences and probably triggered some of those memories. Do you mind sharing with us some of your previous experiences dealing with, children or peers or family members who may have disabilities?
Yeah. It's kind of funny. I didn't really have a background in inclusion or working with people with disabilities. My parents always kept me humble, so I always knew to respect everybody, but I didn't really have a background. I think the first special education kind of classroom setting that I ever saw happened in probably 5th grade, and at the time it was weird because our school had become a site for kind of special education classes, and with that, every school in our district, like if they had students that needed special needs, they would come to our school and work within that classroom. It was weird for us because we really didn't get to see or interact with these students. The only time we really saw them was as we were leaving lunch. They would be coming to lunch, and we might have seen them a couple times pass through the hallways. We'll see their classroom, but their classroom's kind of separated from everybody else's. So it was kind of weird. And then the next time that I had kind of inclusion was Hasby Junior Senior High School, in which a special education class kind of tag team with my gym class. But we really didn't interact with these students. Past attendance, everybody kind of did their own thing. The athletes would go somewhere, the girls would go somewhere, and then these students would maybe work with their assistant or maybe play amongst themselves, in a corner or something. But yeah.
So it sounds like the few experiences that you did have, they were exclusive. So with this course, focusing on mainly inclusion those with disabilities, what fears did you bring into this course and how were those fears tackled or those objectives? Were the objectives to conquer some of those fears?
Well, the biggest fear I had was kind of, me working to be a future educator. The biggest fear I had was finding ways to work with maybe students with disabilities or maybe students I had to take it a little bit slower with while also working towards that valedictorian. It was kind of finding curriculum plans to work around these students and also challenge the students that may be excelling so that everybody stays engaged within the education system. On the first day that we kind of got in this class, we got a sheet and it had basically goals. And it was interesting because a lot of the goals were stuff that our background knowledge of inclusive settings, and it was interesting because I didn't really know much about it, but it also kind of excited me because me not knowing much about it or what's right down on that sheet, it showed me everything that I was going to learn within this course, and that was kind of accomplished.
Wow. So what was the sheet? What was it asking? What was the question of that?
Well, basically, it was asking what we knew about students with diverse abilities and stuff. But it gave us a set of goals, so to say, within the questions. So, for instance, we learned about students with diverse characteristics and learning needs and how to embrace their individuality rather than looking at them all the same. we learned about the experiences of the children and the families of children with disabilities and how to better work with them to create a good educational experience. We also learned how to plan curriculum around students with disabilities, and I think the main thing that we learned was about special education law.
So Anthony has given us 5 main goals of this course, and we're going to be right back to break down each one. Stay tuned.
I wasn't doing anything that was out of the ordinary at all. I wasn't doing anything that could be considered an achievement if you took disability out of the equation. Years later, I was on my second teaching round in a Melbourne high school, and I was about 20 minutes into a Year 11 legal studies class when this boy put up his hand and said, "Hey, miss, when are you going to start doing your speech?" And I said, "What speech?" You know, I'd been talking to them about defamation law for a good 20 minutes. And he said, "You know, like your motivational speaking. You know, when people in wheelchairs come to school, they usually say, like, inspirational stuff." Yeah. It's usually in the big hall. And that's when it dawned on me. This kid had only ever experienced disabled people as objects of inspiration. We are not, you know, to this kid, and it's not his fault. I mean, that's true for many of us. You know, for lots of us, disabled people are not our teachers or our doctors or our manicurists. We're not real people. We are there to inspire. And in fact, you know, I'm sitting on this stage looking like I do in this wheelchair, and you are probably kind of expecting me to inspire you, right? Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm afraid I'm going to disappoint you dramatically. I'm not here to inspire you. I'm here to tell you that we have been lied to about disability. Yeah, we've been sold the lie that disability is a bad thing. Capital B, capital T. It's a bad thing. And to live with disability makes you exceptional. It's not a bad thing, and it doesn't make you exceptional. And in the past few years, we've been able to propagate.
Right before the break, Anthony had touched on 4 of the main goals and objectives of this course, Education 257. And he's going to give us a breakdown of each of these goals, starting with number 1. And number 1, the first goal of this course was learning about students with disabilities.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the main things we did was we learned about the ways that we construct disability at first, and we construct disability in, I mean, a social kind of aspect. The main kind of idea that I took from it is that we wouldn't know what a disability was unless we socially constructed that there was a normal and abnormal way of viewing things. And doing that, we kind of separated it into 2 paradigms based off a reading from Baglieri called Disability Studies in the Inclusive Classroom. And in these 2 paradigms, we had the medical model and the social model of looking at disabilities. And the main kind of overarching model that we use within our culture is the medical model. And within that model, we kind of approach disability in which we have 2 classifications. We have the normal and we have pathological or abnormal. And whatever doesn't fall within that normal aspect is what we call a disability. So therefore, we kind of, once students fall within that disability kind of classification, we kind of start to label them and put them in other categories. So say if this student has Down syndrome, we put them in the Down syndrome category, and that student has Down syndrome, he's just like everybody else with Down syndrome. So what works for that student is going to work for everybody else within that category. And that's kind of a negative way of looking at things, because just as students with disabilities are, and just as we are, everybody's different and everybody's not the same. So therefore, we have to get to know each and every person and each and every person with a disability as an individual person. We have to embrace their individuality and get to learn what separates them from others. Although they might have Down syndrome and they might have the same characteristics of other people that have Down syndrome, they still have a different way of viewing things, and different way of learning, a different way of acting. What we're trying to push people to as future educators is towards a social model, and that's kind of changing the environment around what we view as a disability. So, although the student may have a disability, if we could change that environment, make it more of a accepting environment, and it takes away kind of the labels of the students. So, we want people to be, we want people to have kind of fulfilling encounters with students with disabilities. So that way, if we could create a positive environment, it will create a positive environment to where we have a kind of global understanding and create a relationship, rather than saying this person has a disability and kind of pushing them to the side.
Interesting. I'm sure there's challenges within that, within pretty much separating, the labels that society has grouped these people together. I'm sure you guys as educators face your own different challenges.
Yeah, it's always going to be a challenge in reshaping kind of thoughts, because these thoughts have been around for centuries. I mean, we also looked into the history of disability, and I mean, from way back when it was the World Wars, and Hitler was trying to kind of create a master race and get rid of people with disabilities by excommunicating them, or even, so to say, killing them off. Or within different cultures of people with disabilities, like they had different rituals, like they'll do this and they'll get rid of this disability within the child. And some of these rituals were not good for people. I mean, it included maybe like cutting off a finger, cutting off a hand or something. And we also looked at like more recent cases, such as Willowbrook and those schools. And within Willowbrook, it was basically like a place where they would ship people with disabilities to, and it was supposed to be like a disability center to where it would educate and kind of help these people out, but it ended up being just kind of like a camp to where they're sending these people off, and they'll be forgotten about. And it was kind of like concentration camps back in days of like the Holocaust and stuff like that. So, and as bad as it is to say, like that's kind of what disability had come to.
So what else did you learn about students with disabilities?
We also learned about basically the 13 categories of disability that have been defined, including like autism, deafness, emotional disturbance, hearing impairment, intellectual disability, cases of multiple disabilities, orthopedic impairment, health impairment, specific learning disabilities like ADHD and dyslexia. And we also learned like kind of how to pick up on signs of those early, which I mean is important so that we can see it as teachers. And then speech and language impairment and traumatic brain injury, and also visual impairment. So.
Wow.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting to kind of learn on those, and like ways to pick up on those, and ways to see like within our students. That way, like if we feel that our student has a problem, we can kind of communicate it to their parents and communicate it to other people to try to get them the best help that they can possibly have.
So you guys have been taught how to notice certain symptoms, certain signs and symptoms. Okay, great. So moving right along to our second goal of this course, experiences of children with disabilities as well as family disabilities. What was the goal, and was this goal met?
The goal was kind of becoming understanding of like the families and the children like with disabilities. So one of the big things that we did, we had a parent panel in which the parents of children with disabilities kind of came in and spoke to us. And the parents would come in and they would kind of explain their child, explain like what disability they have, and show like what effect that the children's disability had on not only the family but also the educational experience of the student. And it kind of helped me out because it showed me what parents struggle with when they send their children off to school. So one of the overarching things from like all the parents was that they wanted teachers to be genuine with their child. Uh, Children with disabilities are just like you and I. I mean, they're no different than anybody else. They experience the same things that we experience. They have the same emotions and everything. And they can tell when people are being genuine and when people are not being so genuine. So, I mean, once you build that genuine line of, I want to help you and I want to get to know you, it not only helps the student, but it helps the teacher learn more about the student and about him or herself as a teacher to better their educational experience. Once you get that student on your side, you have them, and you could basically do whatever it takes to help them. Another thing that the parents kind of explained is that they want teachers to be able to communicate and be patient and understand the importance of communication within the parents. One of the big things that they had said that I took away from it was that as teachers, we always think that we're the ones in charge, but we only have that student for a school year or even a semester. That parent is going to have that child for the rest of their lives. So we have to work with the parents because they know more than we know. And they could help us like find out what works for the student and what doesn't work to get that child on our side, to get us to have a further understanding of that child and what they can and can't do. One of the big things that also helped within understanding like the experiences of children and their families was reading this book called Cultural Reciprocity in Special Education, in which the goal was kind of to examine like our values and our differences, and then understand the values and differences of other families and other cultures, and it kind of strengthened like our awareness to how different cultures might view like their child or might view disabilities like within, and how they can view like how disabilities affect education. It kind of helped like ensure us a way to create a ensure us a way to kind of sidestep like stereotypes of different people to create a special case for each person. Like each individual person is significant, and what we can pull from them and what we can do is significant in their case. So whatever family I help, it's a different case, and I could make sure that I'm working towards the better good of the student and also the family of the student.
Wow. So you touched on IEP meetings. Exactly what is IEP meetings for those of us who, have not?
So IEP meetings are basically, IEP stands for Individualized Educational Plan. And what an IEP meeting is basically for a student that probably has like a learning disability or a disability at all. We meet with school officials and kind of like the parents, the teachers, the principal, and we basically talk about, we get together and we kind of talk about like what the disability is for the student, kind of what the parents want for the student, what the student wants for him or herself, and ways to approach or ways to get to like the goals of what the parents and the student wants. And basically what happens is we request a meeting, and then we meet with the parents, and then at that meeting we get parental like advice on what they want to do, and then we get consent for everything that we want to add. We talk about accommodations and modifications, and everybody talks. Well, in good IEP meetings, everybody talks, and we decide like what the disability is. We set goals, and we decide where we're going to place these students. And after the meeting's over, we apply the plan and then review it annually to see if the student has met the goals or if the student has missed the goals. It was funny to us because we saw examples of like good IEP meetings and bad IEP meetings, and the good ones, the parents always had to say so, and the teachers were always understanding, and they worked to whatever the parents wanted for their child, and also like gave kind of like their ideas of other things that could possibly help. And the bad IEP meetings, for instance, we saw one on YouTube about Mr. Goldstein in Kennedy School, and he kind of kept forcing these parents what happened was their child kept getting taken out of normal classrooms, and the parents were really kind of fed up with it, and they were explaining like, we don't want our child to get taken out of these normal classrooms, so we feel like his learning experience is great in normal classrooms. And what happened was the principal and the other teachers kept kind of pushing, like, well, taking them out of these normal classrooms and putting them in the school of other children just like him. And it's not what the parents wanted. And ultimately, the meeting ended up being a wreck. And so it was kind of good that we got to see examples of what worked in IEP meetings and what didn't work. So therefore, we can have an idea of what to incorporate or how to function within IEP meetings that we will be taking place in as future educators.
So open up the communication between parents and students and teachers. That leads us to our third objective of the class, our third goal, which was planning a curriculum. And listen, I understand, I respect so many teachers across the world, because just planning a curriculum by itself for children, for non-inclusive classrooms, it has its challenges, I'm sure. So planning a curriculum which, inclusive classrooms, with students with disabilities and students that learn at a very fast pace, I can only imagine, some of the challenges. So please, go into details about exactly what this third goal entailed and was it met.
Well, yeah, curriculum plan is kind of different, but it's going to be a challenge no matter what happens. Whether you're in an inclusive classroom or not an inclusive classroom, as you said, it's always going to be a challenge. And one of the things that we took focus in is the problems within the curriculum that we have now. Oftentimes, the curriculum that we have teaches everybody as a group or as a whole and doesn't embrace the individualities that are present within the classroom. And that's not necessarily a good thing because it doesn't embrace the differences that exist. These curriculums are always limited, like who they can teach, what they can teach, and how they can teach. But that doesn't, that isn't helpful within the classrooms that we have now because everybody learns different ways or needs different things to help them learn different concepts. One of the things that we talked about was universal design learning, and that kind of takes a back step and it focuses on that these students that aren't getting it, they're not the problem. It's the curriculum that's the problem, and we have to change the curriculum to kind of match these students so that they can become expert learners and they can learn the concepts that we're trying to teach as teachers.
Interesting. So, was the goal met?
The goal was met. We learned, within curriculum, learning how to use curriculum, it was a lot of stuff that we had to go over. For instance, we also looked into modifications and accommodations, and the difference between those two is that modifications kind of change the curriculum to match the learner. So say we have a student that struggles in spelling and we have a spelling test coming up, maybe his classmates will have 20 questions on the test, but we'll make his test a little bit shorter so that he doesn't have as much to try to focus in on. Or maybe he doesn't have as much and it's easier for him to focus in on maybe like the little things. And so say we give out a 20 question test, he'll probably have 10 to 12 questions on his test. And it'll be a little different. We're making modifications so that it better helps him as a student. Then we also have accommodations, and the accommodations were kind of like supports and assistive technologies that we use within the classroom. And you have 4 different types of accommodations. We have presentation, in which we accommodated to the way that we present information to students. We maybe change, like maybe this way we made like an active learning, and like next day we'll lecture with like a PowerPoint or something. And then we also had response accommodations where students could kind of change like the way that they respond to things. So say they could speak to me and give me that response, or they could write in something and send in that response, or make like a video presentation, or kind of do that. We also had accommodation to the environment. So say students struggling to like sitting in large group settings, like they can't pay attention. We could maybe separate the desk or change the environment of the classroom, have like some students sit over there in bean bags or some students sit up close, or whatever better helps them focus and pay attention and learn concepts. And also an accommodation within like the timing of assignments and stuff. So say we know a student struggles, we could give them a little bit more time to work on the assignment. So say they need an extra week to complete a project, you can have that extra week and it wouldn't be a problem at all. So yeah.
All right, that brings us to our fourth and final goal of this class, which was the laws, learning the different laws. Now, this is something that I really, you know, I've heard about it, off and on, but I don't know much about it. So if you want to learn much about it, then come and join us right after this break.
Yeah, I have a lot of dreams. What I want to say is to you, don't limit me. Don't limit me by thinking that I can't learn in your classroom. Don't limit me by thinking that I will always need someone to help me. Don't limit me by having low expectations for me. Include me in all your students in your circle of learning while you are planning for my world-class education. Think about how I have the same needs as our students. We all need life skills, we all need work skills. I need for you to teach me skills beyond reading and math. Teach me how to learn, teach me how to act. Think about what I need to know to be able to do when I leave school. Help me learn to be independent in class. Help me learn to be independent with friends. Help me learn to be independent and safe when you're around our school. Teach me to be independent so I can become an independent adult. I need to work independently. I need to speak up for myself. Don't limit me by teaching me to depend on others. Teach me respect, because respect is give and take. Hold me to the same behavior, expectations as others in your classroom. Teach me how to behave and excel in your class. Don't limit me by making me class mascot. Teach me what you expect from me. Set high expectations, not impossible expectations. There is a difference, you know. You will learn a lot from me. Good teachers teach and learn with their students. I will teach you a lot about yourself. I will teach your students about people with disabilities. If you don't limit me, we will teach our school how to be an inclusive community. You, my teacher, are the person who's going to teach me power, passion, love, and independence. And I will become a powerful, passionate, loving, and independent adult. So please don't limit
Touch on our fourth and final goal and objective from this class, which was special education laws. Anthony, have these laws been put into place, and have they affected educators like yourself or future educators?
Well, one of the adhering to like our mission and our emphasis on social justice, it's important that us as future educators kind of advocate for students with disabilities. What happens oftentimes is these students kind of get put on the back burner. So like if a school loses funding or support, these are students whose kind of help goes out first. So it's important that we know the laws and know like what's in place to help these students so that we can protect them and help them have just as much opportunity as any other student going within standard education. So for instance, some of the laws that we had intact to help ensure the best educational help for these students were ADA and 504 IDA. Well, some of these laws are in place. It was interesting to see because some of them were just recently like kind of made, and they were made like within the time period where our parents were around our age. So it was interesting to kind of see like some of the laws. Well, one of them was even enacted in the 90s, and it was like I was born in the 90s, and it was a couple years before I even came into this world. So one of the laws that are intact is the ADA, which is the American with Disabilities Act, which was signed in 1990, and it's basically an act that prohibits like the discrimination of kind of people with disabilities within like the workplace or in education. So therefore, every like if a person with disability can do the job, they are awarded the same opportunity as a normal person. You can't really discriminate them based off their disability if they can get the work done. I'm sorry. Another law that was kind of intact is 504, which it was part of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, and it prohibits discrimination due to disability for any program that receives kind of like a federal funding. So if your program receives like money from the government, kind of, then you can't really discriminate a person based off disability. And that's kind of also in the workplace too. So that awards them the chance to get jobs and do work to benefit their lives. We also have the IDEA, which is the Individuals with Disability Education Act, and that awards students with disabilities a free, appropriate public education, or it's also known as a FAPE, which is basically allowing them the opportunity to have services or whatever they need to learn with other students free of cost within their education. So everything awarded to another student to help them be successful within school, and those students with disabilities are often awarded, and even other services that they might need, such as supports or accommodations, free of cost. Other things that we kind of have in place to benefit and help in terms of disability education is we have the idea of No Child Left Behind, which kind of everybody kind of knows what that is. We also refer to it as Zero Reject, in which we can't deny a child education by deeming them uneducable. So we have to provide an education for them, and in terms of like disability education, where we have the IDEA in place, we have FAPE laws where it's a free, appropriate public education. So therefore, like it kind of helps us bring disabilities like into the school. Like we can't just excommunicate them and push them away. In terms of laws, we also have like things like non-discriminatory evaluation, in which we evaluate like if a child is eligible for special services and stuff based off of different assessments. It also has to be. We also have to like have like parent consent with that and everything. So also we have like in terms of like parents' involvements within like laws and disability education, we have we have the IEP meetings, which I mentioned earlier, and that's just to help like students with disabilities be awarded like the best educational opportunity for them, so that they may be successful. We also have for parents, they have due process and procedural safeguards in which they must be like included in the plan, and they must like have an opportunity to enforce their ideas within and know like what's going on within how their child that has a disability is being educated, and what's going on, and like what they're doing in terms of like work and their goals and what they want to reach and what they want to become. So it kind of helps the laws not only help like us protect the students, but it helps get the parents involved so that we can all work together to protect the student and ensure the best for them.
No, Down syndrome does not slow me down. It's just what I have in me. I do have Down syndrome, but that's not going to stop me one bit. See, I live on my own. I clean the house, I do exercise, I walk my dog. She's an outside dog. And I got 3 other brothers. They don't treat me special. My name is Mark Joseph Hubler. I'm from Indiana. A Hoosier fan. See? We're more like this different.
My name is Moira Rossi. I'm 20 years old. I go to the University of North Florida. I love college. It's the best thing. I'm studying right now career planning and journalism. I'm also taking voice lessons. I want to sing on American Idol and kind of win Simon Cowell over. See, we're more alike than different. My goal is to be successful and be an international sensation.
My name is Christopher Scott, and I'm from Texas. I'm 31 years old, and I have Down syndrome. Well, I like my job. I'm a teacher assistant, and I work with kids. That's where I get some of my energy from. I like lots of movies. So I like to go dancing, get my groove on. See, we are more alike than different.
I am Christy Hockle, and I am 29 years old, and I have Down syndrome. Yes, I just joined the gym. I love to exercise. Exercise is my thing. I can lift 140 pounds. I just love it. I just love being there. It's really fun. I like to get healthy and strong and skinny. See, we're more alike than different. My mom keeps saying, Christy, you need to listen right. I am Christy Hockle. I am 29 years old, and I have Down syndrome. Something special just happened to me. My boyfriend asked my dad in the hand of marriage. He's wonderful. He's cute. I love him a lot. I want to be beautiful as a bride. See, we're more alike than different. I'm going to have a big, big wedding for 300 people.
Well, thank you, Anthony, so much for stopping by and telling us all about this Education 257 course. I know I've learned a lot, and I hope that our viewers worldwide has also learned. In closing, what did you take away from this course, and what do you plan to do with the information that you've received?
Take away from this course, like I said, I didn't have a strong background in inclusion or inclusive classrooms, and I feel like this course is very important because me not having that background, it's going to be difficult for me to be thrown into that when I'm a teacher. And I thank this course because it showed me that my fear was just as any other teacher's fear, and that I wasn't by myself in this picture. And it gave me an opportunity to see like what has worked and what I can kind of implement within my classroom, so like give me ideas of what I can do that might work in the future. Also, it gave me a way to kind of learn about maybe how students with disabilities feel and what they feel is the pressure on them, like in terms of education, and how us as teachers can better benefit them, and also with the parents' involvement and finding ways to communicate with parents and work with them to find out more about their student and learn about them as we learn about ourselves as people. It was also kind of cool to work within like the social justice. I mean, me being a black male, it's kind of something that I've dealt with like my whole life, like learning about social justice and learn how to be socially just and how to incorporate that into the classroom. So it's interesting to find out like different ways in which even I have put labels on people. Like in high school we had the campaign that was using us and the R word, and we learned about it. I mean, it was Rose's Law where they were taking like the word mental retardation or retarded out. And I mean, I used to call people retarded, but it wasn't like derogatory to like a person with a disability. It was just like me joking around with friends, like, oh, if they did something stupid, I was retarded. And it showed me like the way that I maybe label people or maybe label like things within society, and like how I had to take those out, and I had to make a change and be different and show other people how to make the change from that kind of medical model to that social model where we create an all-inclusive environment, so where everybody has the same positive attitude and the same positive feeling towards everybody, no matter if they're disabled or not disabled. And I really thank the course, and I took a lot from it, and it will help me out as a future educator. And
all right, thanks for stopping by. And thank you all for viewing and listening to the IWU Real 101. Stay tuned, and thank you so much. Peace out.